Good evening, Littleton, and welcome to the Joint Finance Committee Select Board School Committee meeting. We're all here. I call the Select Board meeting to order. Mr. Chair.
I call the Finance Committee meeting to order.
Mr. Chair.
Call the School Committee meeting to order.
We're all here.
There we go.
Anthony, would you like to kick it off?
So the budget session that was scheduled for Saturday, the school committee couldn't make it that day, so this is in lieu of them appearing then, and then after they present their budget for FY24, both boards can have a discussion. I think Ryan sent out an email to both chairs as far as maybe looking at making the Saturday a Thursday night and not doing, but we can talk about that after the school's presentation or discussion.
I guess you can begin at your pleasure.
Up there, yeah, please.
Yeah, it's so we can hear you for the mic.
So, first off, thanks for accommodating the request. We appreciate everyone gathering ahead of your regularly scheduled meeting. Hope to make this an efficient use of everybody's time. So I believe everyone received a copy. It's up on the board, so I think everyone's looking at it. We had initially met, I want to say maybe last month, with our first look at the 2024 budget. We ran through that in some detail, and you'll see that the original request is still on the sheet. So initially we were looking for an increase of 1.703 on top of the previous year's appropriated request, which boils down to a 7.4% increase. At the time, I believe nearly all departments were coming in with an increase that would have had not a balanced budget for the town, so we were asked to revise our request as best we possibly could, which we feel like we've done. So just want to walk you through the differences this evening. Long story short, you'll see at the bottom of the page, it's still a 6% increase over the previous year, so it's a 1.383 on top of last year's budget. Taking it from the top down, I'm going to start with last year's budget, the $23,050,000, and then what we're looking at an increase there of $746,000, which is salary increases, it's cost of living adjustments, steps and lanes for the staff as it relates to their current contracts. Of note, we've decreased that request $57,406 because we feel that can accomplish that by not filling 2 teaching assistant positions, which we had previously advertised for or would like to service the needs of our students. But if we're being asked to cut back, that's one of the places we think we can. So it's not a reduction of current staff, it's just not filling 2 positions that we had advertised for or planned to hire. You'll see there's no adjustment to the administrative costs associated with team chairs. We have 2 members on staff right now where we're moving them outside of or looking to move them outside of the union and make them more of administrators and get that pay increase in line with that. So no adjustment there. There's a $50,000 savings for us if we delay the hiring of additional SPED administrative support. So just recently, this school department had a third-party outside evaluation of our special ed program. One of the recommendations was to specifically hire this additional administrative support, but to the tune of a $50,000 savings, we're willing to defer that cost to a future year where hopefully we have a little bit more room in the budget.
It's like me, Mr. Chair. So Justin, that's outside case. That's the top special education.
Correct. And then you'll see no adjustment on the next line item. We are looking to hire an additional 6th grade generalist teacher, so we're keeping that in place. So what was $964,000 is now $857,000 and change. Those are all salary line items above that we just discussed. Now I'll move into non-salary items. So we had forecasted or projected about a 20% increase in our utilities. We think that that's accurate. There's probably no way to avoid that. We're going to have to fund that, so that remains part of the request, $100,000 increase. School bus contract, as many of I believe all of you are aware, our current contract is up. Bid packets are out. We're hoping to get some back in the next couple of weeks. The way that the bid cycle works is we're anticipating an increase to the current bus contract as it sits right now to the tune of about $113,000. Suppose the hot button here is the additional busing. So we had forecasted about a $280,000 increase as it relates to additional buses. We're looking to go from 9 to 14 buses, 5 additional, and that is to accomplish a change in school start times, largely for the high school, start them later, start the middle school later. Buses currently run 3 loops. By doing this, the buses would only run 2 loops, so we need more buses to do that to pick the kids up faster. We're looking to sort of split the difference here a little bit. Maybe it's 2/3, 1/3. So we've left $180,000 of that request in the appropriated amount, and we're going to try to raise $100,000 of bus fee income from the students themselves by adjusting the rate upwards across all riders that have to pay for busing, as well as student athletes. Student athletes ride buses to away games and practices, and they use the buses as well. So we have a formula, we have some math behind that $100,000 increase that we think we can raise ourselves. We decreased or eliminated a small or nominal $10,000 increase as it relates to operational needs. We think we can just fund that ourselves. No adjustment for substitutes. We went up this year with substitute teacher pay rate, and we feel that we need to maintain that level to be attractive, cover what's necessary. Next line item is an out-of-district tuition spend. So what's been approved at the state level is a 14% increase. It's a $180,000 additional cost projected to the school system. It's a necessary spend. There's no way around it. We're asking for $77,270 to remain in the appropriated funds, and then we're going to use school choice reserve funds to fund that $102,000 to make up the difference. So that's going to come out of the school department savings. And then there's a $25,000 increase as it relates to case collaborative tuition, which is estimated to be a 5% increase. So we have taken a an operational increase of $738,000 down to $525,000. What was a $1.7 million ask is now a $1.383 million ask. And this was some time spent together with the budget subcommittee and the administration. This was our best efforts to try to whittle this down, something that the town could try to fund for next year. So we went through that quickly, line item by line item, but we're here to entertain questions, and Kelly and Steve are also here as well, obviously.
I have a couple of questions. The first question is on the utility, $100,000 increase on utilities, 20% increase. We haven't seen that level of increase in the town utility budgets. I'm just wondering if there's just a mismatch in expectations, or whether you guys have talked with the town, or what's the difference? I mean, I'm not taking issue with the 100,000. I'm questioning the 20% because we didn't see that in the other budgets that we've seen so far. So I guess maybe a question for town administrator more than the schools.
Through the chair. So I took into account when I spoke to LELWD 10% on the electric. I'm not sure on the water. So that's still up in the air. I don't know. And I'm assuming from the 20% that they came up with is probably their best estimate.
And LELD already had mentioned that they're doing a 10% increase. We already know that's coming.
Right.
That was explained to us by them, so.
Yeah, no, it's just, if it's more like the 10%, there's a few dollars there that, you could move down to one of the other lines. So I'm just trying to get my head around, is it 10% or is it 20%?
Sure.
And
One other factor you should consider is we're still keeping our windows cracked in our classrooms as a preventative measure for COVID. That makes a significant difference on our heating costs. We're not sure what we're doing next year, but we all know COVID hasn't gone away, so we're anticipating we're going to have to take precautions next year as well.
Okay, it's just something that maybe schools and
Sure.
town minister could get together, and maybe you found some money.
Right.
And
It's a good observation. I
you
think
know,
what are we halfway through the heating season maybe? I think maybe what we could do is take a look at what our budget for utility spend is and where we're tracking right now. And if it looks like we're gonna run over, then that would justify the 20%
Yeah, no,
increase.
that's fine. I'm not questioning the number, it's more the percent. That's
Sure.
all. And the other question I had, in out-of-district tuitions going up 14%, and then case only going up 5%. It's okay with me, but
Sure.
I mean, historically,
I'll defer
case is pretty
I'll
rich.
defer to Kelly on that one, but
Sure.
the 14% is state approved. That's a known at this point in time, and I think the 5 is an estimate, but
The 14% line refers to out-of-district schools that are private schools. This 14% increase was approved by the state, so we are obligated to follow that increase.
Okay, so case doesn't fall into that same,
No, they're a public school system.
okay. Okay, thank you.
And that 5% is an estimate there, or is that?
That is an estimate, correct.
Okay, that fluctuates year by year depending on the
It
population.
does.
I have a question. At a school committee meeting, I don't know, 4 months ago or so, I may have it, but it was a discussion about special education, and there were some people saying that we, not so much administrative support, but special education assistance. And in my memory, I heard that we haven't been able to hire as many special ed assistants as we want, just given availability and salary and stuff. And so I was kind of actually expecting to see an increase in the request for the salaries for special ed assistants, unless we found another way, or unless we're just making do without the non-administrative special ed assistants.
right. I guess that's sort of a general school committee answer, and then perhaps Kelly can give you some more details, but I think that's a position where there tends to be some vacancy as the school year gets ready to start, because those people might move around a little bit, or as the school year gets started, we realize we have to hire an additional person or two, and it's sometimes difficult to attract that position as the year gets going. I feel that we're adequately staffed there from what I've heard, and that we budgeted appropriately for it. I just think it had to do with the start of the school year and hearing probably late in the hiring cycle that maybe we didn't have some of those same people coming back, and therefore we were going to have some vacancies. Is that accurate, Kelly?
That is, there definitely is a shortage for that, classification of staff. What we've done to counterbalance that in our middle school and high school is we've taken a look at adding an additional teacher, and we would reduce 2 to 3 educational assistants depending on what program that they were assisting in. Our needs do change throughout the year as well. And we feel with the population that we have next year, we should be fine with the number that we presented.
Okay, great, thank you.
Could you tell me roughly what percentage of the existing bus fees the $100,000 represents? How much of an increase it is?
Sure, there's a couple different ways to get there, of course. But we arrived at additional $100,000 revenue source for the school department through 3 means. So right now, there's an $800 cap. Sorry.
550 cap right now.
Yeah. Total potential increase by increasing or eliminating the family cap. So if we bumped the family cap to either $800 or $1,000 per family for all busing needs, we would automatically receive an extra $19,250 because there's some savings taking place right now for some families that are in that situation. If we increase the athletic fees to $225, which they're only $200 right now, so it's a nominal increase, that's an extra, call it almost $17,000 in income. And then the big increase would be bus rider fee from $225, which is the current fee, up to $350. It represents a 55% increase, but it's still less than $1 a ride. That's $64,000 of income for a total of about $100,000.
What's the relationship between the family cost and the rider fee?
So for transportation, so there's, for the bus fee, it's $225 a student with a family cap of $675, so a family would pay for 3.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Right?
And I think has it been 18 years since we've raised bus fees and
It's probably been more than 18 years. We have not increased any of our fees for at least that length of time. We tried to hold firm as long as we could, and now we're in a situation where we need to reconsider what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
And it's happening all over the state. I mean,
I'm sure,
obviously,
yeah.
but you know, it's a common thing, especially as you know, the many other towns are trying to get school times, start times later, needing to add same exact quote as us, needing to add more buses to do that, increasing bus fees. It's just a trend.
With pulling out of, or with using school choice funds for the out-of-district tuitions, I mean, how does that leave those reserves? Is it? Yeah.
For our school choice fund account?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Healthy. We have in excess of 10% of our budget
Okay.
would remain in reserve, or thereabouts 10%. So the reason why we carry that level of an emergency spend is that in the event that we had even just 2 or 3 high need special situation students move into district or become available, we could be spending money at the tune of $300,000, $400,000 a student. You know, a very rare circumstance, but we carry that level of emergency reserve for that exact purpose.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I think that kind of answered my question, but just to clarify, so the school bus contract isn't a hard number yet, and so I'm assuming that the 280 or the 180 is not a contracted number yet. And with the increased fees on the buses not being a hard number, you have money if those things all fall short.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We would not want to put us nor you in a situation we would be coming back to ask for additional money to finish the year. So these are budgets. It's our best estimate as to where we believe the costs are going to come in. We do have that emergency reserve fund.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if we decide as a committee and as a community those rate hikes would be too steep too quickly, then there's probably a chance that we could alleviate some of it by maybe providing some funds from these reserves and get us there, get us these numbers. But if we go 18 years without a hike, maybe there's a chance to phase it in without jeopardizing too much of our budget. Something we'd have to talk about as a committee. I'm not committing to that, but if we hear from the community, there may be a way to make that a little softer of a landing.
Are there accommodations for people who potentially can't afford it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That goes for student athletes as well. So both of those fees you can.
Got it. Okay.
Those fees can be waived in the event of a hardship or financial insecurity.
Are the family caps, is it a separate cap for athletic and bus, or is it a combined cap?
I believe it operates separate now.
caps.
Okay.
But as we redesign the bus fee schedule, perhaps it could be a common fee of $1,000. We'd have to just kind of work the formula different ways.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to think of, imagine a family that had 3 kids paying 3 buses and 3 athletic fees. I hear you on the 18 years, but it could be a substantial bump.
What's the cap on the athletic?
$550 a family.
Okay, and you're saying, and the cap on the bus fees is?
$675.
Currently, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So the cap on the bus fee is $675. It's, 3 children, right?
Yeah,
The athletics is a much better deal because you could have those same 3 kids playing 3 seasons of sports. So there's really 9 opportunities for them to participate in sports. And again, it caps out pretty quick. So I think there's some room there.
okay.
Yeah, I think it just on any given year, the fact that the bus times are changing, we're going from 9 to 14 buses, it probably would have been a year you'd look at fees potentially anyway to, so I think that's, just looking at this and looking at previous year budgets, I know a lot of work went into this to trim 6, and I know Anthony and his office worked a little bit, but also getting this number down. So we weren't facing our deficit. You were a huge piece of that, as you know, so thank you.
You are welcome. And thank you, Anthony, for your efforts as well. It now feels like a good time to just mention that last year we had, a proposed budget, and we were able to, due to some COVID money, come back and reduce our request by about 50%.
Yeah.
And the previous year, some faces were on, that are here tonight were on those boards. We actually returned about $400,000 back to the school, back to the town. So if we potentially hadn't returned the money or had stuck with last year's original budget, we wouldn't be looking at a 7 or 6% increase. We'd only be looking at like a 4% increase over the previous year. So much easier to swallow, but we want to make sure we always spend the dollars wisely. So when we could cut back, we did, and now unfortunately we need to ask for a little bit more.
And no good deed goes unpunished, right?
Of course.
Just taking this into account for 24, looking ahead to 25, with some of these things here. The 100,000, do you think that's an ongoing piece? You raise the bus fees, it's probably going to stick.
Yes, the busing, I believe the busing expense would remain about the same. I mean, there's an increase built into the contract every year, of course, but because we're jumping from 9 buses to 14 buses, that increase, it wouldn't look so big year over year. It would be easier to swallow next year because we wouldn't be looking at that increase.
I'm just looking at the 100,000 coming
For the
from
utilities?
bus fees.
So he's asking about.
bus
Yeah,
fees.
we plan to sustain
So
that.
that'd be
Yes.
sustainable.
I'm
So
sorry.
the new fee schedule will be the new fee schedule moving forward, is my guess.
The private tuition, so it's 102,000 coming out of your choice funds this year. We're looking into next year to recoup those choice funds plus fund the addition.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to plan ourselves.
The idea there is something along the lines of how we phased in tuition-free kindergarten, like a bite of the apple at a time. So what we're proposing is if the appropriated budget could include the 77,000 and we'd handle the 102, next year we might look to handle 50,000 of it out of the school of choice, and then by the 3rd year, it's all in the budget.
If I may, we also don't expect the 2025 to have a 14% increase in our district tuition approval from the state either. This is, from what we all understand, it was kind of a one-time adjustment for those out-of-district tuition placements for that 14%.
What's the normal speed?
It's normally in the 4 to 5 to 6% range normally. That's what it's historically been for the last 10 or 12 years. It gets approved by the state for those out-of-district rates.
Then the 50,000 in the support position, you're delaying the hiring, so this position comes on full next year. Is the 50 reflective of that salary, or is it?
It's an administrative support position, so, we do plan to hire that person or that needed staff at some point. It's evident that we need it. It's clear as day. The evaluation that was performed says, look, you've got really skilled, highly compensated people doing administrative tasks. If you could alleviate some of those responsibilities, your school system would probably be higher functioning in some of those areas. That's what we're looking to accomplish here. But when we're asked to cut, unfortunately, some of those highly compensated, really skilled people are going to have to continue with some of those administrative tasks. and we would look to backfill that potentially next year if we could, if the budget allowed it. Yes.
Question, just, so here you have 24.5 million, and then from the reserves, you're gonna pull about 1.5 million, so the total's closer to 26? No? Okay, because we have, in the book, we have 450 coming out of school choice and 1.1 coming out of circuit breaker.
So, okay, I could,
So, yeah.
Circuit breaker.
When you include circuit breaker, that's correct.
Okay, so we're around 26 million, and then I got two questions. One, how many students do we have now, and how many are we estimating? And I guess how many teaching staff and admin staff do we have now, and how many are we estimating? I'm just trying to get a cost per student and how it's increasing compared to the 6%.
Sure.
We have 1,700 students, 132 teachers. And I don't have the administrators off the top of my head, but I can count them out quickly. We have 8, 4, 12, 13 in our district.
And then next year, the students are going to, your estimated students are going to stay flat, or are they going up?
We have been seeing increases in student population for the past 4 years, and we anticipate we'll continue to see enrollment increases as we continue to grow as a community. We always have people wanting to choice into a school district. We cap it every year because we want to make sure that we don't have to find other classrooms or hire more teachers. It's a kind of balance that we try to attain. So we feel pretty confident that our enrollment is more than stabilized throughout time.
And then the last question is capital. Over the next 2, 3, 4 years, what do you have that's high on the capital radar? Just because we have other capital requests coming in?
Sure.
So is there something here that weighs in against that, and how's it all play together?
We have a couple of HVAC units at the high school that are on tap to be replaced at some point in time. They're reaching end of life or have reached end of life and they're still running. We have the high school roof that we have to evaluate and look at. Those are probably some of the bigger items.
And that's going to be hundreds of thousands, or?
The high school roof,
Over $1 million.
I don't want to scare people, anything to serve this number. The high school roof is probably around a $4 million project. The HVAC unit that needs to be replaced next at the high school is a little bit less than $250,000 for that unit. That's a big unit that services the auditorium. It's I forgot how many ton unit. Again, so those units on the high school had an estimated life of 15 years. That building's now 23 years old.
Thanks.
and when the roof goes, it's gonna go, and we don't want to be caught in that situation, but if everything works according to plan, we could stretch the roof, hopefully maybe another 2 years, which then allows us to participate in that program where if things are greater than 25 years old.
Yeah, it could be an MSBA school
Yeah.
project, but that's
Yeah.
why we have the money in for the feasibility study to determine exactly what the roof will cost and how much longer we can get out of it, whether or not we can stretch it, is so we can get the state to kick in X number of percentage, 50%, 48%, whatever that percentage might be.
Right.
Right, but if we stretch it 2 years to the point where we could apply, then there's still the process of applying and waiting, and
Correct.
so
And I
you'd
think we currently
really
have
be
a
stretching
20-year
it
roof
for 3
in
or
year 23.
4.
Yeah.
Correct.
We'll know better once we have the feasibility study on how we proceed, and we might be asking for a state, another project before the MSB, knowing that it'll take years before they address it.
About 8 years ago, the town and the schools looked at the capital replacement plan for all of our buildings. So the information is there. Our high school and middle school are reaching a point in time where life expectancy is already passed in some of the key areas, structurally, the roofs, for example. So really no surprise to anybody on PMBC, and those of you that have served on elected boards for a number of years. The challenge is to fund proactively. It's really tough to do that at times when we have other needs. And I think the town and school have done a good job since during that 8-year period. We just have to continue to be mindful of the fact that there are going to be major expenses that will be incurred as our buildings get older.
Right. And I just to your comment, just did some quick math and some quick Googling just on the our expenditure per student for the district, and it's completely in line with surrounding. So, I mean, it's not what I remember from 10 years ago, but nothing is. But just because I was a little surprised at the number, just 26 million divided by 17. But that's in line with all our comparables. So.
Yeah, I just a little bit more on the capital side real quick. I do know, we've done the windows and doors the last few years, I think, so I know you're staying ahead of it, so thank you for that. I think we did the windows, was it a couple years ago?
We repaired a bunch of the high school windows a number of years ago. Replaced a bunch of the exterior doors.
Yeah. I will say that I am a little bit worried about the gymnasium. I was in there, I do the clock, and you got a couple barrels in there collecting rain.
Right.
I don't know if that's is that the roof we're talking about, part of the roof?
So the roof that we're getting ready that's going out to bid now, the bid comes in on February 9th, that's over the administrative wing of the high school?
That's what we already budgeted.
That's what we already budgeted. That was approved a couple of years ago.
That would not wait 5 years.
No, we have a number of barrels.
Right. The rest of the roof, that's part of that roof study that Anthony, town administrator, mentioned.
Okay. Lastly, and this is kind of out of left field, but just curiosity on electric buses. I know they're coming to some extent. Is the company that we're contracting with even remotely starting to talk about electric buses on any level?
No idea.
With this contract?
Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question with them. They're looking at buses. There are some drawbacks that they see and cons against those buses. But there is a clause in the current bid that we have out that if we had the opportunity through grants and funding to acquire electric buses, then we can replace the diesel bus with an electric bus with the bus company, and they can't really, it's our prerogative. So we have language in there to hopefully address that in the future if we get that opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a great point, because not just electric, but the hybrid. It's the usage model is perfect for hybrid. There's so many stop starts, and police have already seen. They said a reported 40% reduction in their gasoline costs. So yeah, it's a good question.
The state's mandating it too before too long. So.
Yep.
I hate to be a Debbie Downer on the budget, but there is one thing that we haven't actually talked about, and that's that you're not funding part of the HR position in this budget. So the budget actually is increasing a little more than we said because the town's picking up the full HR instead of half of HR position. So.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I'm sure you're very happy about that.
Yeah. So, we're happy to discuss that as well. That wasn't really a topic that the budget subcommittee of the school committee discussed, but if it's something that the town and the school department need to work together on, we're happy to take a second look at that. But as you can see, we're essentially not looking to hire 2 teaching assistant positions. We're looking to defer $50,000 of administrative support as it relates to special ed. We're already not doing some things that we believe are in our students' best interest, so.
Well, it's definitely a conversation we should probably have in the future.
Okay.
And I can certainly speak to that. When we worked with Anthony to help fund the position, it was for a 1-year period, and it was for getting caught up. The HR department, as I'm sure you're aware, was behind in a lot of areas. There wasn't a conversation about continuing this position. That's something that the town probably is evaluating at this point in time, whether or not that's necessary. I don't know whether you're caught up yet or not. So I would definitely need more information to continue that conversation.
I think we're still early in the, as far as the HR office. In the finance office, kind of, we have a model that looks like it's going to work. But the HR office, we're still kind of navigating our way to see what this is going to, the final product's going to look like, I believe. I don't think we're quite there yet to know exactly the pieces, how they're going to fall, but, so that may be a further discussion.
I think there's HR is one area that we should be looking to collaborate and share more on. Facilities is another one we've talked about, and potentially janitorial and things like that. We should figure out a better model for going forward on some of these things.
Facilities manager.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that our staff in the school department have picked up more HR responsibilities without adding positions or adding pay. So, we see the need, but at the same time, if we're going to support the HR position of the town, we need to give some things back so we can get back to a normal workload for some of our staff. I mean, we're all pitching in to try to get caught up, but there comes a point in time where we need a direction in terms of what do we need for staffing to take care of the needs of HR.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. What I'm trying to say is we should figure out a good game plan going forward so that things are accounted for properly. And
I think we're all taxpayers, so if you believe that there are some efficiencies or some possible efficiencies, we're happy to attend those meetings and help with the collaboration as well, so certainly.
I guess just going back to CAP for a sec, just to make sure what we have in the budget books is still kind of current. So what we had was $71,000 for the concrete repairs, $175,000 for high school roof HVAC, $50,000 for roofing. Is that the feasibility study, Anthony?
The study?
Yeah, it just says high school roof in the CAP plan.
Feasibility study for the roof.
Then potential for tennis court reconfiguration for $200,000 and facility improvements for furniture, floors, and play structures for $100,000. That's still
yes.
Okay.
Those are accurate.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? No. I guess we're good.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The school committee wishes to adjourn their meeting. Thank you.
Thanks all. Good night. Good night. So should we talk schedule while we're all here?
Let's talk schedule, sure.
You wanted to do it Thursday night because it's just because it's not Saturday?
Well, you only have the police and the fire and DPW and cemetery. And, I don't see those being long conversations. In speaking with Chief Pinard, and I know the cemetery should take about 10 minutes tops.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. And fire too. I don't see much, so, we certainly can keep it on a Saturday, but I think that you'll be getting together, and I don't think we'll be spending a lot of time on those 4 departments. So I think it's something where you could do it, even if you started earlier, and still have time to deliberate and have discussions after. That's just my opinion. But whatever the boards want to do, that's fine, we can work with.
Yeah.
I'm not here, so I mean, Thursday, obviously, my schedule's planned a little bit more in advance, so I planned on not, I have a trip Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so, but I'm pretty familiar with those budgets that we're speaking. This one was one I obviously need a little bit more info on, but the other 3 I'm more versed on, so don't hold it to me.
Okay.
But you're talking about this year only, not going forward, getting rid of the Saturdays, just
No, just because they
that's
were
a big piece of the
right.
half our budget.
Right.
But he's talking about doing the presentations and the discussion of the entire budget afterwards. So you wouldn't be missing just those presentations. You'd be missing.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Like I said, I'm one. That's why we have a board. So I'm not going.
Yeah, man.
I can give my input, my feedback to you, or you can share whatever my thoughts are.
Okay.
I think there'd be substantial time for going through the budgets. I guess my only concern would be whether there's sufficient time for any conversation on the cap budget or any of the items that were kind of asks and weren't funded to, otherwise I think we'll have to have a subsequent meeting to have some of the discussion, I'm sure we'll go through that night.
We could try it.
Yeah, we can
I
carve
don't
out.
know, we're running out of time to try it. I mean, I think we've.
No, I mean, we can try it and then have a second meeting if we really can't get through it. I guess we could always meet on Saturday.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that because we're going to be here late on Thursday with an inclination to shortchange discussions, I think, so that we don't have to do Saturday. We planned on Saturday, I'd say. I mean, you know, this is, you know, to your point, we've known about this Saturday forever, so I wouldn't be inclined to move it.
Anyone else? Thoughts? Opinions?
I think I agree with Brian. I think that discussion that we have after the meeting that afternoon is pretty worthwhile. We haven't really even discussed capital yet. We have 8 or 9 different requests in front of us that we need to prioritize as a group to see what we can do, and then it's talk about what do we cut. So those could be some worthwhile conversations to have. I just don't want to rush that.
Okay.
I'd also say, I would hope, and I guess it does put pressure, but, you know, I was wondering if at that point we might be in a position to see a new version of the presentation for town meeting, because we're running out of time, and we need to, you know, we need to see it. So I think, you know, that gives y'all another couple of days.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for town meeting, I mean, we have our time on the set where we're planning on discussion and approval for town meeting articles. I don't think we need to, there's just more info grading, but I think we'll still have a full week before town meeting to discuss that, and then.
Right, but I guess I was saying that when the last presentation, the draft of the presentation for town meeting was great for us.
That was not for town meeting. That was for the benefit of the Fincom, just to be clear.
Okay.
So we have the information from that meeting. I mean, it's not going to change. It's more of the selectmen now and administration need to come up with their presentations. I mean, that really doesn't involve us. We have the information.
Right, and I don't think the select board decided as far as who's going to present what articles and how it's going to be done yet.
that, right?
So it sounds like the consensus is keep it on Saturday. And if we're done early, we're done early. And that way you can attend?
Yes, I mean, without schools, you will be done earlier, obviously.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, good.
With the capital, that's the only thing. But you just shared the capital projects with me, saw them in the book. I don't think it's going to be too much discussion.
Okay.
Cindy, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Mark, you okay with it? Yep. Everyone else? All right. So we're keeping it on Saturday.
Well, that's fine. That's what we planned on. Just wanted to see if you wanted to do something differently.
Anything else for this joint session?
No, but I think they could adjourn. You could go into recess for 15 minutes, then we can return on the switch.
Sounds good. Great.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Select board will go into recess until 6:30. Good night. See you soon.